Welcome, everybody, to the Rideshare, Rodeo, and Be My Own Boss podcast that Mike and I do weekly. This week, we got a little bit of an update for you guys and an update for Mike, I guess, as well. Mike has his own podcast now, you guys know. But this will be simultaneously streamed to, I helped Mike create a channel called, it's at Be My Own Boss Podcast on YouTube. So if you guys want to go over there and give it a sub, please do, because he always has a lot to say. So we'll continue to do these and simultaneously stream them. But if Mike wants to make a podcast or do a piece with another person, I've set this up for him because I think he should have that platform. I mean, what he does on Twitter is great, but I think that his voice should carry a little more. So maybe I pushed him into it, but welcome, Mike.
No, I was tiptoeing around the edge of the cauldron, and I'm really grateful for what you're doing, Steve. I want to thank you very much. I think it'll help help the battle. It'll help get additional messages out to people, and like we just tweeted, I just tweeted an hour ago an update on the blue state rollout of anti-independent contractor provisions in Minnesota. And anybody who thinks they're not serious about giving us worse than a hard time, they can just think this through. So, but yeah, we need to get a lot of messages through to our people. There's 73 million of them. We can use all the channels we can get. So thank you for what you're doing for all of us.
Of course. And thank you for what you're doing too. I'm not really sure what part of Minnesota you're referring to. I know that in the gig economy, the Uber Lyft thing just came down not too long ago, last week.
Yeah.
But I think that people are all excited about something there that they really shouldn't be too excited about, because we've seen this before. We've seen cities or states push Uber Lyft into, listen, here's what you're going to pay people. And they whittle it down. Look at, if Uber and Lyft say initially, no way we'll leave. And then you get to a point where they're like, okay, we can operate at that point. Don't think that's a win, because it always ends up being that there's too many drivers and there's not enough work to go around, and they watch your active time. And it actually takes away from the whole freelancer mentality. I've always said it needs to be like a hybrid IC, but this is my example of a hybrid W-2 instead, is how I look at it.
Right. Yes, W-2 without the roof.
Right, because I mean, these people who want, again, they're the only loud voices. There are a lot of people who do not want this, wished it never had happened up there. And yet they didn't get their voices loud enough. And now, as of July 1st, there is a rate in place, and that will be the ceiling and the floor. So you're not going to be able to make more anymore. People will stop tipping. Uber and Lyft will pass along that fee to the customer. And they know this. They can afford to lose a Minnesota. They're global. They can afford to lose a Minnesota. And so, I mean, if they do, I mean, the thing is, they did this in Austin. Austin had 3 startup ride shares, and Uber and Lyft were pushed out by Austin. A year later, all the 3 that thought that they could handle the volume were all doing worse than when Uber and Lyft were there. And the city begged them to come back.
They'd be crazy to come back now. They won't be able to, the platforms won't be able to make money.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. They are staying. They've said, no, we can't work with that number. But somehow they whittled it to a number where the platform said, okay, we can stay with that. But they pre-claused it. They said, but just understand, customers are going to pay more, drivers are going to make less. Just understand that.
Right.
And I was like, how does anybody see this as a win?
Well, the unions have already sewed up their part with the House bill gives them the right of exclusive representation. So they have no competition. They're the only parties to all of this who have no competition. The drivers have competition, the platforms have competition and alternatives, not the unions. Unions are going to get a free ride, and they won't. They even have a clause in the law that you If you start up a union, you can't go after these guys until after you've been working and meet the union standards in the law for at least 2 years as a union. Like, that's crazy.
Wait, the union can't go after who?
You can't compete with a union. In other words, we can't do Mike and Steve's labor organization in Minnesota and say we can do a better job than. There are a couple of common names that organize like truckers and drivers and
right,
regular workers.
right.
So nobody can challenge them.
You're talking about non-union collaboratives.
I'm talking about alternative unions representing free. I'm talking about free market unions, competitive unions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
My grandfather and his family actually started what was a free market union 102 years ago. So.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just didn't want the word union being out there as like, wait, a union competing with a union? Like, it's,
well,
I mean, at the same time, like, I mean, I know that, one of the agreements they made in California for these gig apps was, no collaborative. You guys can't collaborate. You can't assemble. You can't protest. That was one of the rights they signed away with Prop 22. And so I hear it from all sides. I do feel like, and I think Mike will agree with me on this one, that I do feel like these politicians definitely play people a lot, even the people they say they're helping.
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like they use them as pawns.
Yes, they're used as chips, and they, you need chips to get to the table, and then you gamble away chips and you bargain them away, and then what's going to happen is that instead of driving for yourself, being your own boss and having no boss, they're going to have two. They're going to have one boss, which is the platform, and they're going to have another boss, which is the union. And I'll tell you which one is non-competitive is going to screw both of the others. So no, it's really severe. And a lot of people are taken in by we're all in this together and everybody's going to win in the end. Actually, only one party's going to win in the end. Anyway, so we've got to get our message to the people who need to hear it.
What was it that were you just looking into this Uber and Lyft, or you were going further down the road with what's going on in Minnesota?
We've been following it for a while. We have, there are 6 or 7 states that are doing what we call a blue state rollout. That's our term. And state by state, the legislatures that are pretty much owned, Rhode Island, New York, Minnesota, Massachusetts, California, Michigan took a swing at it, but wasn't owned enough. The ones that are really driven by the Blue Party, they are putting in very harsh controls on independent contracting. Many of them similar or worse than the PRO Act called for 2 or 3 years ago. And so we've been following them because we thought, well, the first one we thought was kind of droll out in California. There were 2 small wins. And we thought, wow, this is a big cannon, little fly they're shooting. But no, they were headed for there's a whole program for this. So these states now have varying degrees of laws of very harshly dealing with independent contracting, primarily by hurting your clients. Mm-hmm. Big penalties, a lot of ambiguous wording that all has to be litigated in order to defend yourself. No right of the independent contractor to be heard in any of this. They won't be able to appear in court because, quote, they have no standing to sue.
So outside of the gig economy, what do you think happens to businesses like in California, even though it's not a AB5?
They'll be forced to, anybody they want to engage for work, if they follow the law, they'll be forced to hire as a W-2 employee, period. So if you want
Just
a
that black and
website
white.
designer, you've got to pay them whatever you got to pay them what the wage is for website designers.
Right. I mean, you can still set your wage, but you got to have them on payroll now.
Yes, if it meets the contract criteria the state puts out. Yes.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, like, I guess my point is that I don't think anybody's going to be dissecting it and going, I think that this we can get around because this person will fall under this other. This is what happened in, we've said the word many times, toxic.
Yeah.
You know, everybody in California became toxic overnight.
Right.
Because of this law. And so it what like you could have been raising your hand going, hey, that's not me though. I'm not one of the people in that classification. You can do business with me. And they're like, we'll just go somewhere else.
You are not mentioned in the individual freelancer has no standing to get into the debate. He can't appear as a witness, can't file a lawsuit, can't be party to a lawsuit. Because the courts will say, well, this is about buyers. It's not about sellers, which is just a naive statement. It's about It's about buyers because that stops the commercial exchange. So,
I had a comment that really, it very rarely throws me when I do the 13 minutes of news every Saturday. I get a lot of comments on that now. So like about 8 weeks ago, I had 500 comments on one video. And I respond to all of them. Takes me a minute. But I respond to all of them. But I had one, not this week, but the last, where somebody's like, well, none of this is going to matter. And it's somebody that actually chats in the live chat some. They said, well, none of this is going to matter once we're all under universal income. And I was thinking, oh my God, is that what you, I didn't, sorry, the person who wrote this, but is that what you want?
Yes.
I would never want universal income.
No.
That puts a ceiling on what you right then and there. You can say, I can never do more than this with my life.
You have become a serf.
Yeah.
And you don't own the land. You don't own your own time. You won't be able to afford anything. And that's the international leftist view of humanity's future. It's going to be just like pre-feudal.
But I guess one of my concerns is I feel like more people than maybe I think are in tune with that. That's because of trickery. They're told that, listen, universal base, the same way we were just talking about the trickery of the few who pushed for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking, okay, universal basic income, that sounds great because that's more than I make now. I'll do better. There's inflation. What are you talking about? If you don't have the freedom to make some money, I mean, I hate to say it this way, but maybe go to a socialist country and live there.
Yeah, check that out. Try to get some medical help in Canada. That's why they all come down here.
Right. And that's a funny you mentioned that, because every Thursday on the round table, I have Cheyenne joins us, and she's in Montreal, Quebec. And she says to people that, listen, yes, everybody gets healthcare, but go to a healthcare. She said, you'll wait there for 4 days, sleeping in a corner. She goes, all of us that really want healthcare in Canada, we pay for it.
Yeah.
So she was like, she's like, just like you guys, we pay for our healthcare. If you don't, you're getting something so nasty and ridiculous, it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
So I guess my point is, like, I really don't get universal. Look, I know medical costs are through the roof, but I don't think the solution is just to throw in the towel and say universal basic income.
Well, you have to listen. They have to listen. Everybody has to listen. I have to listen. You have to listen. When you get a message like it's going to be great, you won't have to pay for it. It'll be free health care. You'll get a minimum wage. You'll get you have to remember who's saying it. And that's as important a message as what the words are. And you can't name a benefits program right now that's solvent. They are all upside down. So to add another benefit, universal minimum wage, who's going to do all the work to pay everybody who doesn't really want to work where's all that money coming from? So then they have this little excuse about, well, it doesn't matter because they'll monetize the debt. Wait a minute. They did monetize it. That's why they have debt. They have money and then they spend it. And anybody has any savings at all will know that in what they've done to money in the last 4 years, let alone the last 80 years, is that it has become a useless material. People don't pick up quarters now. If they drop in the gym men's room floor of the gym, they don't pick up quarters. Like, what am I going to do with that?
No,
and a quarter used to be, you could buy an item of groceries for a quarter just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So you can't trust people who say they're going to take your money now and take your freedom now, and then they're going to give you something great, because they have no intention of giving anything back. That's not why they're taking your money in the first place. The private sector exchanges it. Yes.
So when people, the other problem, first of all, it's not somewhere I even think should be explored. I don't think it's at all a win for anybody, but for the people who do like the idea of universal basic income, there's no chart that says how much it raises every year, as far as I can tell. There might be some gibberish that somebody's lying about and just making up some stuff, but there's no way that they're saying, yeah, but it turns into this and then this, and you'll just keep doing better and you'll meet inflation and
They have never dealt with anyone. They've never known anyone who lived under socialism in another country. And they don't really have the appetite to go out and earn something and own something themselves, because the minute you do that, you realize, I don't have to rely on anybody. I go and I do my work. I do it for clients. We make an exchange. I do work and they give me money, and that's the relationship. And I hope they trust me and come back. I hope I can trust them, so that I can come back and deal with them sometime in the future, perhaps. But those people don't want responsibility. They're very often young people or those who, let's call them indolent or lazy. They'll just say, yeah, I'm going to wait for a roast duck to fly into my mouth. Well, roast ducks don't do that. And if you aren't responsible for yourself, then the world looks different. It looks rosier, because everything is a potential freebie. But that's really not how it works.
Also, a universal basic income, does that cover people who don't work?
They say it does now.
So why would anybody work?
Exactly. Where's the money going to come from? Well, we'll tax the rich, because what? How long will that last?
Right. We can all talk about the 1% and how they could afford, it doesn't matter. They're not going to pay for everybody to live.
The hardest working people I know are the 1%.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a DuPont or a Rockefeller or a Facebook billionaire out there that earned the money and doesn't work for it, but even they have a hard time. They have to work for it. They have to protect it because everybody wants it. So,
I like the Facebook millionaire example because it's not clear who he's talking about. But I do want to mention one more time for those of you that are joining or watching on the replay, right here is how you get to go to youtube.com/@BeMyOwnBossPodcast and give a subscribe, a like. It's live streaming there too. So every week we'll be live streaming on both. So we'll kind of see how that goes too. And but help Mike get his numbers up, because I know the more subs and likes and things that show up there, the more he'll go, wait, I need to do stuff with this. And so but yeah, even give them podcast ideas, give them topics in the videos of things you'd like to talk about or hear about. That's how a lot of you got me going, was you'd be like, well, I need you. Will you talk about this? And even if I kind of was like, ooh, I'm a little hazy on that, I would go and learn about it before the next week. you know, like, and just just give you my opinion. But I was doing that for people. I was willing to go, okay, well, Mike's kind of a huge wealth of knowledge. So just tell him what you want to talk about. And, you know, we'll get some ideas flowing here too, because I think it's important that he has this. It's on audio podcast too. You guys, you can find it on Spotify under the same handle, Be My Own Boss Podcast.
There's a hashtag as the first character, right?
No.
Is it an
Oh, you mean the @ sign?
Yes, it's the I think the way you've got it set up is hashtag Be My Own Boss.
Oh no, that's just how I have it in the logo, because I know you always hashtag it on Twitter.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, if you go oddly, which is really cool, because I don't know how this happened. The other ones must not be that active, because if you go to Spotify and you search Be My Own Boss, and I was at the beginning, I was putting in podcast. Now, if you just type in Be My Own Boss, it's the first one to come up.
Oh,
and there's like 50 Be My Own Bosses, like podcasts that talk about other things and kind of.
Excellent.
But this one's popping into the top, so it must be because it's new, it's active. So
yeah.
But check it out, you guys. I know there's a lot of audio podcast listeners too.
We should make clear to people that I am not in all reluctant to do this. I am just one of these guys. Every new state law that comes up, I try to track it. So I'm torn in all these different directions. There's so many insults to independent contractors, new laws, and we still have a court case. I was one of 3 Massachusetts voters who filed a lawsuit against a terrible bill in Massachusetts that they're going to put on the ballot. And we said, no, look at this. This is got too many questions, doesn't meet the constitutional requirements of a ballot question. So the next 10 days or so, we'll be having news about that. So I'm really looking forward to what Steve's talking about. I am not a reluctant school child about getting into podcasting. I think it is the way for independent individuals to communicate with others. So I'm very enthusiastic about it, and I'm definitely, grateful for Steve's help and doing as much as I possibly can. So,
and that's why I need all your guys' help. Everybody watching, make sure and go over and give a subscribe to that. Check out the audio podcast, all of it. Because I mean, like Mike just said, he might have a whim one day to go, you know what? I've had this piling in my head over the weekend. I want to record on this. And maybe he just drops a 10, 15 minute recording about something about a state that you guys want to know.
That's definitely what's very likely to happen. I got this thing about the business model for all independent contractors. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Remarkable. But just have some fun. Talk to people.
So maybe next week we could, because I mean, I have questions about the gig economy in Massachusetts, to be honest. Maybe next week we could tackle your state.
Oh, we've got it. We're Massachusetts. We've got a special provision for that.
I know. I just saw that there's the bill and then there's the other bill now. So there's like these 2 bills.
Oh, right. Oh, actually, there were like 35 ballot questions. I mean, people are not going to read 35 ballot questions. So they've been fighting in court over which is which. But some sides found signatures and got 6 ballot questions approved, all saying basically the same thing with a couple of verbs and a couple of adjectives different. It's like a what's different puzzle, where you look to see where the circles are and where the rectangles are placed.
So could we maybe tackle that one next week?
Oh.
Or at least
I was thinking of helping people understand more, not less.
I just mean like kind of like even some kind of because people should know. They should know before the vote comes up that, hey, yeah, there's going to be 6 options for the same thing.
All right, I can do that. I can't explain the ballot questions, and nobody knows what's going to be on.
No. I don't want to sit here and read the ballots. I can explain
why Massachusetts is so special. I'll be happy to do that.
Okay.
kick that little rascal
because
off.
it is confusing. I mean, all these states are different, but Massachusetts seems to be that attorney general who's now the governor, right?
She was the governor. Oh,
No, she's the governor now. Wasn't she the attorney general before?
well, see, this is where it's so much fun in Massachusetts. You have to have a program before you can watch the game. I don't want it. This is all for next week, or for
Okay, this is for next week. This is for next. We've hit our 25 minutes, but I do want to end with saying, right there, you guys, check out New Jobs America. And
he's leaving you hanging.
That's right. I am absolutely. I want to thank everybody. Chris Taylor, I see you in there. Traveler, I see you, and I know there's been other people popping in and out. Hopefully, you guys have flipped over to the channel that I put in there, and give Mike a subscribe, a like, something. Shout out in the live chat right now. You got about like 30 seconds left before it'll be off. So, but as we sign off here, we'll be back next week to talk about those more in depth. I was put a little time together trying to get the podcast ready to roll, and as all of you know on YouTube, you got to do the 24 hours before you can go live. So I did that on Saturday, and it said it'd be ready Sunday. And so I attached it Sunday to this for today. So now he's good to go live anytime he wants. But I almost forgot about that. So we're lucky that this one got through, and I'm seeing it right now playing. So it's okay.
And if you followed that explanation, you're all set to learn about Massachusetts independent contractor law. So don't be intimidated by the law.
All right. I just saw Chris Taylor say he's here over in your chat too. So yeah, thank you, Chris, and give a sub. And same to anybody else that watches on the replay, you guys. I'll put it in the show notes, the link directly to it. And then in Mike's channel is the link to his website, New Jobs America, also the link to his Twitter channel, and some other links. So go ahead and check it out and subscribe, and we'll see you back here next week. Thanks for joining us.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.